So we're gonna start already. My friend Knut is here. Did I pronounce it good?
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. As long as you don't say cunt, I'm fine.
Okay. So I said it averagely good. So yeah, Knut, come on.
All right. Yeah, nice to see you guys. How you doing? All right, there's a thing with buttons on it here. All right. The fourth is completely gone here, so. All right, I'll start like I started this talk on Noob Day. Deo! Deo! All right. I know where I have you. I have you now. Like, this is my talk. It's called Bitcoin's Killer App is You. You're the Badger Honey. And it starts with my story. My Bitcoin career, or whatever you may call it, started here in Riga 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, I traveled to Riga with 50 books in a bag. And before that, I had written articles about Bitcoin, but I hadn't really written a book. So I compiled the articles to a book. But then that's the only book I had to my name. So I thought, like, that's not too nice. I need to write something proper about this, and I was getting more and more interested, as one does. So I had to write a proper book, and I promised myself to write a page a day for 365 days. That was my New Year's resolution in 2019. And like all New Year's resolution, you break them. I broke mine after 106 days, so it's more of a pamphlet than a book, really. But anyway, I brought it here, and I started to barter it with other authors, for instance, gave away 25 and got to meet all my heroes. And yeah, the books, I ran out of books. And since then, and even before then, I noticed something about other Bitcoiners, because they've been so friendly to me in terms of helping me out with stuff. So these are the German translations of Sovereignty Through Mathematics and Independence ReImagined, my second book over there, that were done by Volker over here. So, so he's one of the first people that just helped me without wanting anything in return, really. And same goes for, sorry? Yeah, that's Volker's desk, because I paid him a visit on my way down to Spain later on in my life. Maybe some of you recognize this piece of art here on the second cover. That's another friend who helped me out, Fractal Encrypt. I noticed that the title of the first book was on one of the rings of this thing, which completely blew my mind. So I DM'd him and said, like, oh, what a coincidence. You put the same words as I did on your... No, man, dude, I was listening to your book while I made the thing. Oh, dude, that's so cool. Yeah, dude, dude. And been friends ever since. So fantastic people so far. But it didn't stop there. Translators, artists, animators. This is, you know this guy, Joni Appelberg, one of the most underrated Bitcoiners out there. Give it up for Joni Appelberg. Yeah, Joni's book is coming out soon, by the way, so you should grab that when it gets out. He's severely underrated. Anyway, editors, podcasters, narrators, designers, publishers, you name it. I've received countless help from other Bitcoiners. And the funny thing is that we very rarely exchanged a single sat. So I basically got all this help for free. Or, well, I don't know if free is the correct word. After all, I wrote a book. And that's what they got, and I got something back. I've never met a more generous bunch of people than my fellow plebs. This is my most prized possession ever. It's the private infinity key 1 out of 21 that I got from Fractal Encrypt a couple of months back. Or rather a year back when I think about it. So, yeah. I began to notice a pattern that made me think. Why are Bitcoiners more generous with their time and energy than normies? Does anyone have a good answer to this question? Have you ever thought about this? Yeah, that's why. That's the correct answer. Yeah, I came to 3 main conclusions. Bitcoiners want Bitcoin, and by extension, other Bitcoiners to succeed in life. We're, like to use a shitcoiner term, we're pumping our bags. We want Bitcoin to succeed. We like number go up. There's nothing wrong with that. So we help one another because we want other Bitcoiners to succeed. But there's more to it than that. Like the second thing I noticed is that Bitcoiners have a low time preference, and by now everyone should know what that means. To me, low time preference is very much connected. Like time preference is on a scale from high to low. And if you have a high time preference, you're fearful all the time. Because if someone has taken all your stuff so you have nothing, then you fear for your life because you need to find food and shelter in order to survive. A low time preference is on the opposite side of that spectrum. So that's when you can afford to love other human beings. So fear is the opposite of love. High time preference and low time preference are basically just a reflection of that. It's the same arrow. So we're incentivized to save rather than spend. So we don't want to spend our sats really. And we all know that our fellow plebs don't want to spend their sats either. So us being friendly to each other is basically just Gresham's law playing out. We're more willing to give up our time and effort and reputational capital than we are to give up our precious sats. So us being nice to each other is basically just Gresham's law playing out because we don't want to spend our stack. This is an ironic thing about a paradox in Bitcoin, because when you can verify the money supply, you can trust the people. So the better you get to know your other Bitcoiners, the more you realize that you can trust them because they're trustworthy people. Like us in this room, we can trust each other because we know we're in Baltic fucking Honeybadger. It's like only trustworthy people are here, except for a handful of shitcoiners here. But you've all weeded them out already, I'm sure. But then I realized something even weirder. I could have, theoretically at least, I could have done all this Bitcoin career without ever using a single Satoshi. But it goes deeper than that. I could have done it without ever hodling a single Satoshi. In theory. I mean, I wouldn't be incentivized to do it the same way, but I could have, theoretically. Which means that you can use Bitcoin in order to achieve a more fulfilling life without ever touching it. So it's more than like Bitcoin the money and Bitcoin the network, Bitcoin the protocol. They dwarf in comparison to Bitcoin the overarching idea, which is much bigger than just technology or money or, computers. This made me think of a quote from my grandfather. I never met my grandfather, but this is what he looked like, allegedly. That which you can do without, you own. And this is a quote that has stuck in my mind ever since my father told me this quote, and I think it's a brilliant quote. It's sort of the flip side of your possessions end up owning you. You can flip that on its head and say that when you don't crave something, you sort of own it. In other words, when you don't crave the Lambo, you own the Lambo. If you don't want this shitty car here, if you don't need it, you own it because you decide over it. Like, you're in charge, you're in control. It's all about ridding yourself of shit you don't need. So all of this stuff here, kleptocurrency, which is fiat, cryptocurrency, which is the so-called altcoins, and joke currencies, like monopoly money, they're all parts of the same Venn diagram here, and you don't need all the shit that it can give you. I mean, material things are not what this revolution is about. It's about interactions between people. And I'm pretty lousy at making PowerPoint, so this is the only picture for scaling I could find. Like, there's a scaling problem. So a side effect of that is it solves Bitcoin's scaling problem in a way, because the necessity for post-hyper-Bitcoinization, whatever that is and whatever the end point is, I haven't figured that out yet, the necessity for monetary transactions will go down and not up. So this is part of what solves Bitcoin's, well, if there even is a scaling problem, we won't need to use money as often as we do in fiat land. In fiat land, we're incentivized to spend all the time. Consumerism is everywhere. Another example I like to give is when wealthy people go out and eat, for instance, it's more likely that one of them will pick up the bill than if poor people do. If poor people go out and eat, they're likely to split the bill because no one can afford to pick up the entire bill. Which means that the total number of transactions happening when everyone is wealthier because of number go up technology means that we won't use money as often. So the conclusion I come to is that the Beatles were right all along. All we needed was love. And notice the B side of this single is called Baby You're a Rich Man. I think there's a nice connection there. They just hadn't found the equation for it yet. So they were right, but this was what they actually were looking for. This is the equation for love. You see where I'm getting out here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so a private key to a Bitcoin wallet is really a private key to your heart, so that you can wear it on your sleeve in public and be better to other people. When you cannot know how much another person owns and you can't take it by force, there is just no other way of enriching yourself than providing something of value for your fellow man. And this is what disincentivizes violence in all layers of society. The further we get into hyper-Bitcoinization, the less profit you can get from violence and coercion. So the better off everyone is. And it ties into something Volker said the other day about how Bitcoin only changes if we all agree on that change, you know, the consensus rules and so on. So the worst thing that can happen is that Bitcoin stays the same. And when you paraphrase that, that means that Bitcoin can only get better. It can never get worse. That's the outcome of that, because we define better as whatever happened in Bitcoin. But, you know, in Bitcoin, the map defines the territory. This ties into that thing too. But Bitcoin is everything divided by 21 million, as we all know. So what this means is that from this point and onwards, or from 2009 and onwards, everything can only get better. All we need for that to happen is to embrace this thing, embrace this idea. And humanity is headed for a better world. So I'm trying to be optimistic here, and there's a point in that, because too many Bitcoiners are pessimistic about the future. We have this thing. We have video conferencing and social media and stuff. We could just readapt and live better lives, which all of us in this room are doing it right now. When you're the only one that knows your private keys, you are your Bitcoin. This will enable you to be the best person you can be. You had it in you all along. Hyper-Bitcoinization is limitless love. Thank you. Just checking.
Everybody's awake. Questions?
Oh yeah, we have time for questions.
So, as a book author, what do you think about open source licenses for books, and what do you think, and what's your point of view about book piracy? Piracy. Sorry. Piracy. I mean, downloading free books.
Piracy?
Yeah, without paying.
I
Because
think
if you are trying to be like a book author, actually you can afford to be it because someone is buying it from you, right? So, what do you think about enabling other people to get pirated copies of your books?
there is no such thing as a pirated copy of my book. I don't believe in intellectual property. I think it's stupid. It's either real property or it's not property. Property rights are more important than freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is just a facade for violated properties somewhere else. This is deep, and you'll have to figure it out yourselves. But but my books are available for free if you know how to find them. So it's a bit tricky, I admit to that at this point. But they will all be available for free in the future. You can listen to them on Guy Swan's pod, for instance, Bitcoin Audible, and you can listen chapter by chapter. We're doing a value for value thing with GetMash on the Consensus Network's webpage and stuff. So the goal is to get it out to as many people as possible. And like what Gigi's doing right now, for instance, I like that a lot. He's just giving out books, and there's an instruction inside. Please give something back. Here's how you can do that online. Value for value. This is what this is all about. Where I'm willing to give up something to you, and I think you're, honest enough to give something back at some point. I trust Bitcoiners.
More questions?
Yes. Yes, my favorite fangirl, or what did you say?
Oh, Knut, you're the best. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about number go down technology.
Oh yeah, what was that? Yeah, that's the important thing here. Bitcoin is deflationary in the long run. It's a number go down technology, and without number go down, we couldn't have number go up. Which is the yeah. Another way to say that is how Jeff Booth puts it is scarcity in money, abundance in everything else, and vice versa. Abundance in money, scarcity everywhere else. I put it in the second book like the costlier the money is to produce, the cheaper everything else, and the cheaper the money is to produce, the costlier everything else. All the same.
More questions?
I thought I was running out of time.
No, you were fast.
When's your next book due?
When's my next book? That's a good question. I have no idea. And I wish to keep it that way. On the 21st, some month, some year.
Okay, so last one.
Here's another question. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it in terms of parasitism. Like, can you say that Bitcoin is the end of human parasitism?
It's probably not the end of, not the way I see it, but you make parasitism, whatever you include into that, I guess you mean taxes, inflation, and crime, and whatever. It will make it less profitable. So that vector is going down. Like it's not getting it's less profitable than it used to be. So the incentives are aligned correctly this time around. Sure.
Last one. What are your favorite Bitcoin resources?
Bitcoin resources?
Yeah, to listen or watch stuff.
Well, there are 3 books that I like very, very much, and they're called Bitcoin Sovereignty Through Mathematics, Bitcoin Independence ReImagined, and Bitcoin Everything Divided by 21.
Apart from your own stuff.
Apart from my own stuff. Oh, yeah.
From your own great stuff.
Yeah, there's one site called bitcoin-intro.com. There's another called bitcoin-only.com. There's one called bitcoin-resources.com. All those 3 are great. I kind of like MicroStrategy's page, hope.com. There's also a free online course there. That's pretty good. Stefan Livera is the teacher, I believe. Yeah, there are a great many resources out there. The important thing is to do Bitcoin only. Otherwise, you're bound to get misinformation. Because resistance to replicability can't be replicated. Therefore, shitcoins are shit.
Okay.
What was? I think I've answered this question like 5 times. What was? Emperor Palpatine is a good candidate. Klaus Schwab, Greta Thunberg. But the honest answer would be my kids, I guess. I just came up with that, Daniel.
Okay. Thank you, Knut.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, who do we have now? Justifer. Who do we have now? We have Justifer. No, thank you, Knut.